What the hell is in those bags?
Rabid Weasels.
Oh, it goes crazy!
No, it's that crap from them tanks! That goddamn chemicals! It's all over everything!
Stupid asshole!
Watch your tongue, boy, if you like this job!
Like this job!
My people. Brains.
I mean, I got something to say, you know? What do you think this is all about? You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life.
Mister, there's 100 of those things out there.
100?
Welcome everybody to yet another episode of the Rabid Weasels podcast. I'm your host Tim Man, and today I've got a treat for you. Oh, I've got an absolute treat. I had the absolute pleasure of sitting down with Bill Perry, legendary stuntman, actor and author. Now he played Thor Van Lingen's stunt double in Return of the Dead Part 2. And if you don't know who Thor Van Lingen is, he's the little guy. He's the teenager who played Billy. Yeah, so he doubled as him. And he also played a utility zombie. And I won't get into what a utility zombie is. You need to listen to this episode to fully understand, because Bill will explain it to you. But I had a lengthy discussion. It was absolutely superb. I had a great time. We veered off a little. It was about Return of the Dead Part 2, but because he's done stunts for so many other amazing horror movies, I had to ask him about those as well. So we're throwing everything in the mix in this one. It was such a delight to speak to him. It was great. So I want you to enjoy this episode, and I hope you have fun listening to it, because I sure did had fun recording it. He was such a nice guy, he really was. So yeah, so here is Bill Perry's interview. Enjoy. Welcome to another episode of the Rabid Weasels podcast. I'm your host Tim Man, and today I'm very excited to have on the show stuntman, actor and author. It's William Perry. William, how are you, mate?
I'm doing fabulous. I'm so excited to do this. We've been planning this, I think, since I was about 14. It seems like it's been a while, but we finally got here. You know.
Yes.
Grayer than when we started talking about it, but we're good. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you on. Like you say, we've been planning this for quite a while. You know, I think at least 12 months at least.
It's been a while.
Yeah. It's crazy, but I'm glad to have you on, because the beauty of having you on the show is, of course, you have been in one of the Return of the Living Dead movies, and that's what this podcast is all about. But we will get into that. But I do definitely want to go through some of your resume. Now, I'm going to fire off some of the movies you've been in to start with, but we'll get into that stuff later, if that's okay.
Sure.
So you have appeared in The Lost Boys, The People Under the Stairs, Predator 2, A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master, Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, The Monster Squad, Tapeheads, License to Drive, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, Hook, Home Alone 2, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, and of course, Return of the Living Dead Part 2.
All classics. Classics all.
Exactly. And, of course, Star Trek and loads of other TV stuff as well. Wow, what a resume. I was blown away. I was, to be fair.
Yeah, very fortunate. At the time when I got into the movie business, I wanted to be an actor, strictly. Mm-hmm. And as I would go out for auditions, they'd say, you know, you're great. You got a great look. Jeez Louise, how short are you? And I'm like, oh, I'm 5'6". I'm like, you looked bigger in your headshot. And so it was a struggle to get roles. And then a friend of mine that was a stunt coordinator said, hey, I got this kid looks just like you. Do you know how to do any, extreme sports stuff? And I was like, I was a skateboarder, motorcycle rider, did some martial arts. And he's like, oh, my gosh, you could work all the time if you wanted to do stunts. And I'm like, I'll take it. I figured I'd just get one or two little gigs here and there. And then then my acting career would blossom. And as it turned out, it was a really sweet gig, because they would call you and just say, hey, are you available on Wednesday? No auditions, no agents, no endless, going back and going back and going back. They'd just call you and say, you available? And you'd say,
wow,
sure. And because of my size, there wasn't a lot of stunt guys my height and weight. I was a very thin little spindly guy with little girly arms. And so they would say, I've got other stunt guys that are your size, but they've got big arms, like gymnasts. And
Yeah.
I never was accused of having big arms, still, to this day. And so it was really fun. And it's funny, we have a joke about if you say you're an actor in Hollywood, they go, really, what restaurant? If- but if you say you're a stuntman, they go, oh, Mr. Perry, my word, I'm getting the vapors. So it was much more impressive than saying you were an actor at the time. So I have to say it was a really good time, and it was a lot of work. They were
Yeah.
chopping up teenagers like sushi back in the '80s. So
Oh,
there was a lot of roles out there, and I would work more than anybody I knew, just almost purely because of my size. And yeah, I look back on it now. When you read it off, I'm like, oh yeah, we did that one. Oh yeah, that was
yeah.
good. That was fun too. So it's really just so blessed to have had so many opportunities. I really got more than I was due, or even anyone could earn. My wife and I were talking this morning about you've had a chance to go and do so many things. I toured with Michael Jackson across Europe one summer, just because a friend of
Wow.
mine was doing a stunt on that show. So just so many, just a crazy, wonderful opportunities over the years. Like I said, more blessed than I deserve.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, well, like I say, when we started chatting about, coming on the show, of course, then I looked into, I like to do the research on guests and stuff like that. And of course, I saw your resume on IMDb, and I just my jaw, I must admit, my jaw hit the floor because it's like, oh, I love that movie. Oh, I love that movie. And I love that movie. Oh, he's in that. Oh my God. And we'll get into it later about your other roles and stuff like that. But I mean, I'm a massive Alien and Predator, as you can see. I love, I've got the big alien head there. I love the Alien movies. I love the Predator movies. Love my horror, obviously. Now, Nightmare on Elm Street for me was one of the big ones growing up. It's probably my entry into horror, really.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that later. I'm going to pick your brains about that. Brilliant. So,
It was also yeah, it gets a little deeper. I don't think it's on my resume per se, but I was also I worked with Wes Craven on a few different shows, a couple of
wow.
TV shows as well. In fact, he was my very first director was Wes Craven on a
Oh,
show
get
for
into that.
television on Disney Channel, if you can imagine, back in the day. And then years after I decided to kind of hang up my pads, I got to be his web developer, and so we
Oh,
became
really?
friends on another level because I was his. The internet was becoming a thing, and as I decided to get out of the movie business, I was looking for something else to do, and web development was kind of a fun thing for me. I'm kind of a tech geek, and so a friend of a friend, same guy who actually got me the job as a stuntman on his show, said, "Hey, I know a guy who can do your website." He goes, "Don't tell Wes that you did movies with him. He won't remember you. You always had some sort of makeup on. Just
right."
And so we got to be friends, and I got to visit his house up in the Hollywood Hills and hang
No
out with him.
way.
He would tell me about what was going on, and then I would update his website. So again, just another one of those things where people are like, why you?
That's just
Why
amazing.
do you get all these cool opportunities? I don't know. Just clean living, I guess.
No, and well deserved. I've got to say, well deserved. To be friends with Wes Craven, he was an absolute legend. There's a few people I've got on my list here who are no longer with us, which we'll talk about. Wes was actually on the list
Yeah,
because I've been on your website and seen your little videos and stuff like that. So I know a few little bits and bobs, but of course, people on the show won't know. So that'd be great to find out. That'd be amazing. You've already touched on how you got started because, like you say, you wanted to be an actor. So my first question was, did you always want to be a stuntman, or did you kind of fall into it, pun intended?
Yeah,
But you've kind of
definitely.
covered that.
Yes, always. I never say pun unintended because I always do intend to have a pun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really was something I kind of got into, sort of, unintentionally. I mean, I wanted to be in movies ever since I was a little kid, and
Right.
I remember thinking to myself, "Gosh, this is gonna happen. This is gonna happen. There's nothing that's going to prevent me from doing this." And when I finally did end up on the set, I remember a couple of times I worked on the show Newsies, and as I'm walking onto the set at Universal Studios, it's pretty excited, and I hear playback, and then there's music, and I said, "Wait, is this a musical?" And they said, yeah. And I said, oh my gosh. And it was everything that you could imagine when you were a little kid. Like, I want to walk onto the set and have some director with a bullhorn go, all right, playback. And so when I got there, I said, are we doing stunts in any of the songs? And they said, oh, yeah, you're going to have to hit your marks on the beat, because there's, this is to music, and the music's already been written. So you have to match your action to the music. And it's one of those things, I just remember thinking to myself, this is everything I wanted. This is, a lot of people get to, maybe do something they like to do, but they don't get their dream job.
Yeah.
They don't get that thing that was just everything when you were a little kid. And as I walked onto the set and heard the music, and I was like, this is it. This is exactly what I wanted. Oh my gosh, what a day, to just feel
Amazing.
like this is what I wanted. And here we are. The sense of gratitude and the sense of dream come true was thick for me. And I just remember thinking so many times, this is what I wanted. And Predator, I'm walking through the door and there's a big plaque, and it says, on this location in I think it was 32, The Wizard of Oz was filmed in this room.
No way. Really?
God, yeah.
Wow.
And I got to film, we did a TV show called Bates Motel, and we filmed in the Bates Motel at Universal.
Wow.
And I remember doing a stunt on the porch of Mom's house.
No way.
And
That's incredible.
doing a quick little pratfall on the stairs. And again, you walk on, this is hallowed ground, I mean, this is movie history stuff. So when you say, is this what you wanted to do? It's like, oh, everything and more. And I think to myself, I dreamt of big things, but it was still better than what I dreamt,
Yeah.
So just kind of one of those things. When I talk to people about this stuff, they're like, wow, you really did enjoy it. It's like, oh yeah, how could you not?
Yeah.
There was just too many wonderful experiences, too many great people, too many cool locations, too many fun things to do that you just ask yourself, why me? We were doing the movie Hook, and there's a scene where we're supposed to attack this big pirate ship, and we're sitting up in the rafters about 60 feet up, and I'm not a real big fan of heights, but I had a rope in my hand, so I'm not going to fall. And I remember looking at the guy next to me, and he looks at me, and we're dressed in our pirate gear, and he says, I'd do this for free. I said, I know, I was just thinking the same thing. I was 10 years old, I was playing pirates just like any other 10-year-old kid. But we didn't have a full set of a massive ship in the water and hanging from these things and flying up to the yard arms and doing all this stuff. And I thought, we're getting paid for this. How
Amazing.
cool is that?
Yeah.
So yeah,
absolutely.
It's, really everything I wanted when I was a kid, and there it was. And so yeah, I never forget that. Never. Every time I think about it, it's just like somebody up there likes me. He's been very kind.
Amazing opportunities as well. Because I suppose, was it a case of once you got one role, then oh yeah, get this guy, he's great for this, or because of your height and your size, possibly. Was that a factor?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, and I've told this to people, because people always think, oh, I really wanted to be a stuntman. And like, what makes you think you'd be a good stuntman? What do you think? And they're like, because I'm fearless. Like, worst thing possible.
Oh, really? Right.
Oh, no, you have to have a very healthy sense of fear, because you don't want to get hurt. It's supposed to look like it hurt. It's not actually supposed to hurt.
Right.
And so when you're doing this kind of work, when you walk onto a set and you're going to go introduce yourself to the stunt coordinator, he assumes you can do everything. Why wouldn't you? I mean, if you're a doctor and you walk into a hospital, they assume that you know how to be a doctor because you're wearing the lab coat, get to work. And that's kind of the same way with stunt people. So the way you got most of your work was something we call hustling, where you would go onto the set and you'd find a stunt coordinator. Hi, my name's William Perry, and what are you guys doing this week? Oh, we're doing this, this, and this. Hey, if there's a spot for me, I'd love to work for you. And you give them a picture and a resume, and then you just toddle off. And you would do this every day, every day that you weren't working, nights, weekends. It's a terrible obsession. It's a really horrible. Sometimes that actually is really a grind. But you'd get out there because that's the way you got your next job. And you just hope that they look at you and go, seems like a nice enough guy. because in the end, it's not about your skills. Most everybody could do all of the things, unless there was some crazy specialty that you needed to do. They just assumed you could do what you said you could do. And so it became, did they like your vibe? Did they like the way you carried yourself? Were you cocky? Were you snotty? Were you obnoxious? Because they didn't want to work with those guys. Who wants to spend, 12 hours a day hanging out with somebody who's, full of himself? So humility, gratitude, those were the things actually that got you as much work as your ability to, fall off of something or hit the ground hard.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow, that's
being short and thin didn't hurt.
Yeah. Well, I'm a little bit shorter than you, so I understand what it's like to be short. So there you go.
5'6"?
Yeah,
Oh
I'm 5'4".
Boom,
5'4". Yeah, there you go. That's it. Yeah, I get the. I look up and go, "How's the air up there?" To a lot of people, that type of thing.
When we were doing Predator, Kevin Peter Hall was.
Oh,
Predator,
wow.
And he's in his suit. He is 7'6", so he's a monster. So he's a solid 2 foot taller than me. And we were, and I was, just kind of sitting next to him. I said, "How difficult is it to be tall, that tall?" And he said, the thing that's really kind of gross about it is nobody cleans the top of anything. It's dirt. He said, nobody cleans the top of the door. Nobody cleans the top of the refrigerator. Nobody cleans the top of anything. And he says, and I see that. I'm up there in all that dust. And he's,
wow.
How's it being really short? I said, it's good down here. People clean.
People clean at this level,
At this level, it would, everybody would see it from this level. So,
amazing.
But it was one of those things when you see somebody that's that tall, you recognize. I mean, his most of his work, or at least a good portion of his work, was doing creatures because they need somebody who's just this, humongo guy, and so he did Sasquatch or Yetis and all sorts of different things. But to see somebody that tall, good Lord,
it's just it's
2 foot
overpowering almost.
It's you think about 2 foot, and you go, okay, well that's about a foot, and that's about 2 foot. That's not so bad. But when it's a whole human being,
and it's going that way.
Going.
It's different when it's going that way to that way.
Yeah. And,
totally different.
And he put the whole suit and the makeup on, and he's even more imposing.
Wow!
I remember walking onto the set going, "Oh, this is going to be fun." I had no idea. I mean, I'd seen Predator, but I had no idea what the second one was about. And I had a speaking role in that one, so I got to really kind of interact with everybody in a way that you don't normally get to when you're strictly doing a stunt or something like that. So that was another big thrill,
Oh well, I just before you came on, I watched your scene in Predator 2 in the subway, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, there he is, there he is. I've been watching that film for years and not realizing until. Getting to speak to you and stuff like that. And then I watched the actual, because you said you had a speaking role, and I'm like, oh, there he is. And in Legends, you're part of a legend kind of a tier list of people who've been killed by a predator.
Yes.
That's rare.
Yeah. I mean, I've been killed by the best, really.
Yeah.
I've been killed by, I was joking. I was watching I have a reel that's got all my stuff on it. And I said, I never leave by the door. Somebody's shoving me through a window. Why can I not learn to use a doorknob? But I was killed by Freddy 3 times. Killed
Amazing.
by a predator, killed by zombies, and killed others as a zombie.
As zombies,
A lot of kind of firsts there. When somebody said to me, "Well, how many times have you been killed by Freddy?" It's like 3, I guess. And they're like, "Is that a record?" I'm like, "It might be." I kind of like that. I want. Call the Guinness Book. I want my record recorded. But
that's like, true.
I think it's Lance Henriksen was killed by a predator, by a Terminator, and by an alien.
I think your buddy Bill Paxton as well.
Yes.
As is it? Yeah. So he's an alien because he was in Aliens, of course. Yeah. He was in the Terminator, which I know you've got a story to tell me about that later.
That we know he was killed in Predator 2. In Terminator, we have to assume that he.
Yeah, it was off
they
screen.
Took his clothes at least.
Somebody's.
Clothes.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's brilliant. But to be killed by Freddy 3 separate times is a record. That's unheard of. Nobody escapes Freddy
Yeah, that's true.
except for you, my friend. Except for you.
Yes. And it's funny because it was a long time ago, obviously.
Yeah.
And somebody had asked me in an interview very similar to this, did you ever really get a chance to just sit and talk to Robert Englund? And I said, no, not really. You know, he was always in makeup, or once he was in the makeup, you wanted to film as quickly as you could because it's not really comfortable. And if he has to talk and move, the makeup has a tendency to tear away from things. And then somebody sent me, after the show, a clip that they found on YouTube of me having a beer with Robert.
No way.
And I was able to, you could barely hear the sound. And so I put it through some software I have, and it pulled out the conversation because it was able to hear what I was not. And I was like, oh, I did have a conversation with him. Oh, and now that I saw it, I remembered it. But
right.
Oh yeah, we did. Okay. Yeah, that's fun, you know. And
that's amazing.
You know, and we were, you know, you want to talk about eventually about Return of the Living Dead 2. Similar situation. Somebody showed me a video of me getting hit by the truck.
Yes.
In an early, when they were first setting it up, they said, yeah, you're going to be standing here. Here's point of impact. And he points at me. I look off camera like, oh, great. This is.
Do you know what?
This is going to be fun. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about that.
I had never seen it. I had no memory of anybody filming it.
Right.
You know, as a behind the scenes thing. So you see things like that and you're like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Now that I see it, now I remember how that was done. Oh,
yeah.
So much fun. And just kind of this, like I said, 30 years ago, I figured these things would be forgotten, you know, before they were finished. And you know, now we're, you know, 35, 40 years later and people are like, oh my gosh, that film changed me. That film changed my life. You know, you're like, how did Nightmare on Elm Street 3 change your life? You know, and one of the kids, if he's probably watching, he follows me on one of the social media things, and he said, I had cancer, and I would watch, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street things, and I would watch this girl survive, you know, the final girl, and it wasn't because she was the fastest, because they trip over everything. It wasn't because she was the smartest. She just had this survival mechanism in her personality. And he goes, and I thought, I could be that person. It's like,
wow, that's amazing.
Oh, you know, wow, yeah, okay. I see this from a different perspective than I ever saw it before. And he sat with me at, we were just at a convention and it was lunchtime, and we sat for like 45 minutes just talking about life and how he related to, you know, horror films in a way that I had really never really heard of before. And I thought, that's a different perspective. And instead of being sort of ashamed of my checkered past of horror films, I was a little more proud, you know, stick my chest out, feel good about it, you know, because at the time I just thought, oh, these are disposable films, you know, that nobody care about. But now, yeah, there's plenty of people who are like, oh my gosh, you're part of the universe of Freddy. You are part of the universe of Predator. You're part of the universe of Home Alone, or whatever whatever the shows are, and the Lost Boys, and you know, you are a character in that, you know, spectrum. And it's like, you know, that doesn't suck. That's a pretty cool thing. Now that you put it that way, I never thought of it that way until, you know, probably 5 years ago. But yeah, it's just, you know, because at the time it was like, you know, because somebody said to me, and he was very serious, Mr. Perry, what made you first want to get into horror films? I'm like, the paycheck.
The money.
that's what was available at the time. You know, we were, like I said, we were chopping up, you know, teenagers left and right. And so those were the films that I would do, because those were the films where they had teenagers. And so it wasn't a, you know, like, oh, I've always wanted to do horror films. I just always wanted to do movies, and you do what's available to you. Now I'm, you know, much more aware of the horror community than I ever was.
Huge. Yeah.
Huge. Yeah. We were talking just before we came on about For Love of Horror in Manchester. And I mean, it's literally a carnival atmosphere. And there are, you find your tribe at these things. People who, they may have a job, they're a welder on Monday through Friday, but on Friday or Saturday weekend, they are Ghostface, or they're Jason, or they're, a character they've created, and they really just love the cosplay. They love the community that's developed around horror films. And again, totally unaware of this until recently, and now I've got friends all over the world, from doing shows and podcasts and just the social media things where people reach out and, hey, can I ask you a couple of questions if it wouldn't be too much trouble? It's like, there's no such thing as too much trouble. Bring it.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Very, it's a whole new, like I say, community for me, and I just really have just fallen in love with these people.
That's brilliant. That is brilliant. I must admit, since starting this podcast, the opportunities I've had, like to speak to yourself and other people from like other movies from the first one and stuff like that, it's just opened up the possibilities of being able to speak to you now. I mean, you're in LA now, and I'm here over in the UK, and it's just we're chatting about horror movies. It's just something. It really is, And like you say, you do conventions, and you're seeing all these people. It's great. It's just a great community.
And it's to find out that the work that you did meant something to somebody. It's a very, I get very emotional about it, because people will come up to me and they're so reverent. I'm like, I'm just Bill, man. Please don't get all excited. And they're like, no, you've got to do things that mean a lot to me. And it's like, and I used to kind of, kind of poo-poo all that. And then I recognized, what? I've been very fortunate. And these people just want to share in some little tidbit. I mean, one of the fun things to do at a convention is I'll ask questions of them. What's your favorite part of that particular movie? And then I'll be able to give them some sort of story that they would never know any other way.
Right,
give them some little tidbit, and then they'll go back and they'll watch it again, and they'll bring their friends over to the house and go, I talked to the guy that did this, and he told me, and you can see the wires, or you can see that this, and this is how they did that. And they're so excited, and it brings their enjoyment of the film, all over again. And then they get to share it with their friends, and they watch it again. And it's sort of like a payoff that I never actually see, when they're sitting at home, unless they sometimes will, write back to me and say, we watched it, and I saw those wires, that's crazy. I never saw them before. And so you get a chance to help people really enjoy the films that they already love, and then they find a new dimension to them or a new aspect that they never saw before. And to give that to people is so much fun, because you sit and, I could do this all day long and do, when I go to the conventions, you're there for 12 hours, and my wife's like, you just sit and talk about movies 12 hours a day? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
For her, this is the pit of hell. For me, this is like the absolute best day ever,
Yeah.
And she's like, go, have fun, that's, she's introvert, I'm extrovert, so I'm going off and doing things, and she's like, leave me at home, things will be quiet, you go off and go chat, it'll be great. So, but I really do enjoy that part. That's for me. I don't make the huge money that I hear some guys at the conventions do. I need to have it pay enough to make it worth the trip out there and the trip back.
Yeah, of course.
But the payoff really is the stories and the people and the food and the locations and the stories that people will tell me about their first time. One guy had told me about how much I think it was Nightmare 3 was such a big deal in his life, and I said, you got to unravel that for me. Why? And he goes,
why is that?
Yeah, this girl Susie, and Susie and I, oh my God, I had a thing for her for so long, and I said, let's go out and see a movie, and she said yes, and so she got really scared, and she cuddled up next to me, and I had my arm right here, and this hand got a little side action on her boob, and it was the best day of my life. And I was like, I got to be honest with you, that's not so much about the movie. And he's like, yeah, it's all part and parcel of it, Or another guy had told me a thing about, it was, we didn't tell my dad, we didn't tell my mom that we were going to go see a horror film. My dad was going to take me to this movie, and it was an R-rated movie. And that was a big deal. You're not supposed to be in an R-rated movie until you're, unless your parents
Yeah.
are there. So my dad took me. We didn't tell my mom, and we went out for dinner, and then we saw this movie, and we were scared out of our wits, and we couldn't tell my mom for a long time. So it was a secret my dad and I had, and it was just
Oh,
between
wow.
us. And it's like, oh God, that's awesome! What a wonderful,
Yeah.
little memory from your life that this film had something to do with. That I, in an indirect way, had something to do with, and so we kind of celebrate that little secret that they had back in the day at the
Amazing.
convention. And I obviously carry those stories around with me. I love them
Yeah.
because at the time you just didn't know that anything you did had any effect on anyone, and so now
Yeah.
with conventions and podcasts and all this stuff, you can reach people all over the country, all over the world, in an
I love it.
instant, and you hear
Yeah.
these wonderful stories, and they just makes you feel like $1 million.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. It's great. I mean, I know we are, this is all about Return of the Living Dead, but just, we've got to talk a couple of things and then we'll get into Return of the Living Dead.
Sure, no,
Just having too much fun here. It's great. It's great. But a lot of people say it's the worst one, but to me, my introduction to seeing Nightmare on Elm Street in the cinema was, I mean, I'd seen the old ones. I'd seen 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 and stuff like that. But I got to go to see Freddy's Dead in my local cinema. Now, I was 14 and they just let us in. Wasn't supposed to see it.
Did you get the glasses?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've still got them somewhere.
Yeah, I do too. I have a pair right over there.
Yeah. I've still got them. And they had the orange sides with the Freddy's Dead in white. That's the ones. And do you know what? I got such a nostalgic love for that movie because it was my first time seeing Freddy on the big screen. It's a massive deal, Yeah, it's great,
Yeah,
man.
and
It's superb.
that's a big part of it too. I think about these films. It's kind of like a great song. I'm also a music geek, and there's certain songs, certain albums that you played on endless, replay when you were at a certain age, when you were going through something, whether it was a good thing or a bad thing, and those things just are part of your world. And you can watch them. Like there's sometimes I'll watch a movie that was a big deal to me when I was a kid, and I watch it back and it's like, oh my gosh, that really does not hold up. That looks terrible. That was lame. Why do I have such a heartfelt love for this piece of crap? But sometimes it's that stage of your life. It was that place you were at that time, and it was a particular experience that you had with it that just ties it forever to a time in your life, good, bad, or indifferent. And I think that's the timeless element of film and music and any of these things, that they meant something to you at a certain time, and you get to carry that around. It doesn't it stays evergreen and gold in your life because I'll always remember Susie and that little. Or my dad and I never got along too well up till that point, but after we saw that movie, we shared something. We both recognized
nice.
we had a love of horror films, and it's like, or like I said, somebody survived cancer, or somebody, whatever that moment was, and that's the wonderful thing about art, and I'm elevating Nightmare on Elm Street 6 to art. But it meant something to someone.
It is. It
some
is.
people will talk about it as being their favorite, and I used to just shake my head like, how? Why? I mean, it's not a fan favorite usually. Usually it's 3 or sometimes it's 4.
Yeah.
The ones that I was in that I know about. Oh, the first one, of course. And again, I try not to judge anybody's opinion of this one or that one, because I don't know their story. I don't know why they're so attached to it, but they are. And hey, you loved it. You loved your, I was a Kiss fan forever. Now I look at it, oh my God, I remember my walls being covered with Kiss posters.
Amazing.
I'm terrified. I look at that now and I'm like, what kind of fool listens to that? But then, it
was amazing. Yeah.
My life I look back on very fondly. So
yeah,
don't judge anybody's happiness. As long
Brilliant.
as they enjoy it, let it go.
Yeah, superb. That's brilliant. And we will get more into the Nightmare on Elm Street in a bit. We will. Oh, I can't wait. I'm superb. Okay, so let's talk. Okay, so before we get into the Return of the Living Dead side of things, so how did how did your parents, feel about you being a stuntman? Because it's a dangerous role, and most parents or most family members would be like, "Oh, you really, oh, it's a dangerous role, dangerous gig."
Yeah, for the most part, I don't think I really did anything that I would have thought could have hurt me very seriously, but maybe 3 or 4 times. My luck of the draw was because I was doubling kids. Normally, the stuff that happens to kids wasn't that extreme because there were rules about that sort of thing. You didn't want to show children, actually suffering very much. So most of the time, the stunts were comedic more than they were anything else. But I know that there were times, I broke a rib, I broke my nose, got a concussion, during some of these things. But if you think about it, if you were a football player, or American football, let's call it, and you went up for the ball to catch it, and somebody just, smacked you, and you said, "Oh my gosh, he really got, whaled in the ribs there. That was terrible." But you'd say, "Hey, it's football. What'd you expect?"
Yeah, it's part of the job, isn't it?
Or
Yeah,
soccer, or not soccer, or hockey, or any kind of contact sport. And that's kind of the way I looked at stunts. Was it's a contact sport. You expect to get roughed up. You don't expect to break bones. It's supposed to look like you broke bones, but it's not supposed to happen that often. But mistakes happen, or things are unpredictable. And so in Elvira, I busted my nose. In actually my rib too, on the very same show within days of each other.
Oh wow!
But those were things that weren't supposed to go the way they did, and it's like, well, that was a rough day. But for the most part, when you're 26, 27 years old, you're invincible. You'll bounce back. And, they say, what is it? Scars heal, and chicks dig scars.
That's
right. So you kind of let it go, and you say, it was fine. I'm tough enough to handle that. And so that's kind of the way I looked at it. My mom was very, very proud of me, really loved that I got to do the thing that I said I was going to do when I was, 6 years old. A lot of people don't pursue their dream that long, or they, their dreams change. Mine stayed where it was, and I was, on focus to do that sort of thing. So she was very proud of the chances I got to do that. And when I would, get to travel, she'd say, "Remember this. Remember how fortunate you are. You came from low place. You are ascending to some heights here. Remember who put you there. And
amazing.
And be grateful and do your best. Don't ever get." Somebody had said to me one time, "You were the happiest little puppy dog when you're on set." Can't you got to kind of keep that down. You don't want to look like this is the best day ever, because you want to look collegial and serious. You want to be, yes, this stunt will be acceptable for me to do. But I couldn't do it.
No.
It's like, sorry, man, this is the best. I'm having a good time. And so
it's brilliant.
It was really, it was one of those things where my friends, my family, they were all, very excited for me, because it's like, go for it, dude. Enjoy it. Do everything you can do. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. Go and live, And so,
true.
Yeah, I took it. Yeah.
Amazing. That's amazing. Oh, brilliant. So how did the role in Return of the Living Dead Part 2 come about?
That's a great one. That is, it's, if you mentioned this movie, and it's one of my favorite movies that I ever worked on, for a lot of good reasons. And one was that I was playing Billy, the stunt double for the zombie, and also what they call a utility zombie. And a utility zombie is a zombie that has no particular name and is not really a stunt double for a character, but you're a zombie, and you don't have a specific action that is going to be featured like maybe somebody else might. So when they called me for that show, I was actually doing another show during the day, and that was filming at night. And people were like, "How do you do 2 shows at once?" I'm like, "I know, it was so awesome." Because it was the height of my career, because, my friends were lucky to get, a few days a month. And I was not only working a few days in that week, I was working night and day. And the money's pretty good. And so you're making twice as much.
Yeah.
And I remember somebody asking me, wait, well, how do you sleep? I said, I know. I was so excited I could barely get any rest. And they're like,
Right.
you couldn't sleep because you were too excited? And it's like, yeah, I mean, really, again, at that age, you got all the energy in the world and you're invincible and you're excited. And it was, so much of what my dream that, yeah, I remember I got off at midnight. I would get about 4 hours of sleep and then I'd head off downtown. And then as soon as that was done, I'd leave, get on the freeway, get up to Valencia, California, where they were shooting, and shoot there and do it again.
Amazing.
And, it was great. I got a call because, again, I was the right size to double tour. And the fun part of it was I'd say, we did the scene where I get hit by the truck. And I said, so, hey, man, it's been really great. And he's like, where do you think you're going? And I said, are we not done? And he's like, why do you think you're done? And I said, I wasn't killed by that. And he said, you're already dead. You're a zombie.
Yeah.
He said, and the magic and miracle of zombie movies became apparent, like the end of the Grinch. Oh my gosh, all of a sudden the realization, it's like, wait, since I'm already dead, I'm not.
I could do
done.
this again.
Yeah. I get to get stabbed in the mouth. I get to get thrown off the catwalk. I get to be electrocuted. I get to be smashed over the head. And so, this is great. What a day. What a week. Because now, and then he's like, yeah, can you be another zombie? I'm like, dude, I can do anything you want. This is so much fun. And the show was very low budget. We didn't film on a soundstage at one of the big studios. It was a factory that somebody had sort of reworked to make into a movie studio. So it was like a big industrial park. And I remember when I pulled up, I saw this big electrical tower. And I thought, wow, that's kind of out of place here. I wonder why they need so much electricity. It wasn't real.
No, of course.
It was, I feel so stupid, but it was cheeseburger containers made out of styrofoam that they had linked one to the next to look like the Transformers.
Wow, is that what it was?
It was really
That's
good. I was
brilliant.
completely fooled right on set. And they had, we were there, nights and weekends, just trying to, make the show as inexpensively as possible. And it was just such a fun atmosphere, because sometimes the low budget movies, which a lot of the horror films are, they are made by the most creative people who have very little resources and a lot of magical, creativity. And it's like, we don't have the sets for this, so we're going to have to make our own. And so we're going to use McDonald's, styrofoam boxes for electrical transformers, and we're gonna, we're just going to do it any way we can, on the lowest budget you can imagine. And that often just keeps the mood light. We're not making Gone with the Wind here, people. We don't have the budget. We don't have the cast. What we have is people that are dedicated to making this and having fun doing it. So that show for me, there's a story of a guy named Gary Davis, who was our stunt coordinator. We're getting ready to do the scene where the big transformer falls through the ceiling.
Comes through the ceiling, yeah.
Over the head. Well,
that's
there's
right.
a big piece of candy glass up there that this thing's going to come through, and the glass is really thick. And candy glass is not made out of candy anymore. It's basically a resin, and it's, it has to be really thick in order to be strong because it's very brittle.
Right. Yeah.
When it hits you, it's heavy. Because in order to make it as clear as possible, you got to make it thick. And Gary was up on the roof, and he was getting out there, and he's reaching towards this little piece of tape. I said, this little piece of Scotch tape, is that showing in camera? And he goes, yeah, we got to fix that. And he reaches for it, and
no, and he's gone.
And he fell through, and he landed on the desktop. And it just, oh my gosh, the embarrassment alone, not to mention the contusions, and that glass is sharp. You see, when you think of candy glass, you think, well, that's safe. To an extent.
Still sharp.
It's very fragile, but it's just like real glass in that it cuts.
Right.
And he fell through, and this was on a Saturday, and they said, where are we going to get another piece of glass? That glass was $10,000.
No. Oh my God, really?
Yeah, a piece that big. Very, very expensive. And so he was, of course, humiliated and just embarrassed, and oh my gosh, and of course the stunt team, we're not saying a word. It's like, hey man, that could have been you. You know, if
Yeah.
you'd asked me to go up there, I'd have been the one who fell through.
Yeah, true.
But I just remember at the time thinking, well, there's a story for the Gary will tell no one ever.
You'll save it for a podcast.
Yeah. One day you'll tell us in a podcast, or I'll tell it because you won't. But
Yeah.
it was just really such a good show. And of course, I had a major crush on Marsha Dietland.
Of course.
And then also, I was a big Twin Peaks fan. So,
Right.
Working with, why can I not think of his name? Big tall.
Oh,
guy. Yeah.
yeah.
That guy.
Yeah. Oh, it's gone out of my head as well.
See, now there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Now I don't feel
Gone.
so bad. Thank you for acting like you don't remember as well.
Yeah.
But just it was such fun, and just
Yeah.
really, it was goofy. It wasn't your typical horror film. A little more comedic than straight horror.
Yeah.
So a lot of fun to ham it up. The best things like that are done straight.
Yeah.
And they come out funny because you're playing it straight. You're not
Right.
You don't seem to be quite in touch with how goofy what you're doing is.
Yeah.
But made that film a lot of fun, and I said every time I watch it, I think that's me. That's me.
That's me. There you go.
With the guy with the sort of bluish, not that guy's me too. So you get to watch
Nice.
yourself throughout, and and enjoy it again. And also the residuals don't suck. When you do horror
course.
films, they show them in rapid succession
Mm.
from August all the way through the end of October, and so they'll show an entire Nightmare on Elm Street.
Of course, yeah.
Like, I got 3 of those babies. Bring it in, baby. Just get my
Bring in this big check. Yeah.
They're not so big anymore, but they were for a while. And
Oh, that's
since
amazing.
streaming has come, they show them a lot more often than they used to, and
Yes.
so you get these checks, $40, $50 here and there, but it's money I didn't do anything for, so at least
Yeah,
nothing lately.
Something from a long time ago, but you're still getting them. So that's brilliant.
Reminder, a little
Yeah.
monetary pat on the back here and there.
That's it. Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, I need to ask you about the director, Ken Wiederhorn,
Yes.
because as history goes, the legend says that he isn't a fan of horror movies, from what people have said. And some people have said that it didn't seem like he was too interested in doing this movie. So did that ever come across to you, or did you have much to do with him in that video? Is that you with Ken?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was very pleasant to me.
Yeah.
I think sometimes when you get doing what we call the second unit stuff, where it's just the stunts, a lot of times they'll have a second unit coordinator, a second unit director, the stunt coordinator will do that. But I think he enjoyed that stuff. I think he enjoyed the mayhem. I think he had some fun with that. So I don't remember him being unpleasant or irritated. I know that he was very serious.
Right.
Sometimes he could be a bit intense, but
Right.
to me, being the director of a film is a really big responsibility, because in the end, producers and everybody else aside, you're the one whose vision, is that we're trying to do this. And Wes Craven used to say, there's 3 films. There's the one you wrote, there's the one we filmed, and then there's the one that ends up on the screen. And they're very different movies.
Wow,
and so
yeah.
you're trying to take this vision you've got and then bring it to the screen, but there's so many things that happen, mistakes, budgets, complications that you couldn't possibly have imagined. And so by the end of it, you just hope that what you did managed to be close enough to your vision that it's good. I've seen great scripts turn into terrible films, and I've seen scripts that I thought were boring and dumb turn out to be pretty decent films. I remember when Wes showed me Scream, I said, "You'll never get it made." He said, "Why?" And I said, "It's too intense. It's too graphic. I mean, you're going to get an X rating." And he said, "No, this is a comedy." I said, "This is the least funny thing I have read ever." And he's like, "When you see the way I cast it, you'll enjoy it." And I was like, "You know what, man? No. Just the scene with Drew's boyfriend, Steve. In the film, they had busted his knees. And so he's sitting in that chair, and his kneecaps are basically wide open, and it was just so nauseating to read. And when I saw him, like, son of a gun, that was fun.
He changed things with that movie, didn't he? Oh, Wes changed things with that movie.
So, again, I read the script and read a far too intense horror film that I would not have watched if it wasn't for his direction. So you kind of have to look at these things and say, these directors are doing the best they can. And when you did the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, these were usually first-time directors or very early in their career directors. Rennie Harlan, who went on to much more big-budget films. And Chuck Russell, did some much bigger films. So a lot of these guys, they were trying to build a reputation, and so there was an intensity and a severity to their way of dealing with people, because I think they were a little bit on edge. I think they were worried that this may not, this may be my only shot. Don't screw it up.
Right.
And so that intensity, I get it. It's not always pleasant, but if you recognize what they're trying to do and just do your job, show up, don't wander off, don't get, don't be an idiot. Be prepared. Be ready to work when it's time to work. I think if you can do that, most of these guys understand that intensity, and you can deal with it. Never, like I said, I don't think I had any experience with any director that I thought, what a dick,
right?
Be like that. I remember Chuck Russell getting very frustrated when we were doing Nightmare 3. There's a scene with this big Freddy snake.
Yes, the big snake, of course.
Grabbing and eating Patricia
Arquette, wasn't it? Yeah.
Shot it backwards. Basically put on and then they went back. And there's a giggling that's happening through the rafters and the lighting guys. And Chuck can hear it. And he's getting a little frustrated. And he's like, "What? What is so effing funny?" And out of the ether of the attic, somebody says, "Well, that's the first time I ever saw a penis eat a girl to get in the movie." And then it was off to the races, boy.
Oh, no.
Now you're not supposed to laugh. And he just wanted to be done. And we are laughing so hard. He's like, "If you can't stop your goddamn laughter, go outside." Like, see ya.
Yeah.
Because then it's like the teacher, laughing, and the teacher's like, "One more peep out of you." And it's like, "Now, come on. You can't tell me I'm not allowed to laugh. Because now I can't do anything but laugh." So,
that's brilliant.
Is that... Chuck was unhappy with that, but it was a funny moment, and I hope that, looking back on it, he's like, yeah, it was funny.
I think that's why they changed it to a purpley color, wasn't it, in the end?
Oh, yeah, it was green. Yeah, in fact, they
greeny purple.
This green goop and put it all over it. And then the giggling starts again. And he's looking up into the rafters. "What now?" And somebody says, "Your pee-pee's got some funk on it. You might want to get that checked." And we were laughing again. And now you got to go step outside for a while longer and take a break while they do whatever they got to do. But yeah, it was one of those things. I'm sorry, whoever made that, it made a penis. It's if you don't see that as a penis, I don't know what you're thinking. It's a penis.
What I love is there's NECA figures of it, and you can buy the pack. That's it. There's the extra pack for part 3.
You can get them at porn shops, which is also, just kind of doubles their distribution.
There you go. Excellent. Okay, so Ken was fine with you. I suppose with yourself being so happy-go-lucky, we love being here type thing. Yeah. That it, you probably gave that vibe to everyone, and everyone was, it was cool. So that's nice.
Not. Some of them just, other stunt guys would be like, "Keep it down, dude. Come on now. Be, dignified. Be a professional." I'm like, "I'm not being unprofessional. I'm just happy. I can't help it." I'm just enjoying myself. People, this was a very common day. For me, every day on the set was, dream come true. So sorry if that's offensive, but I'm having a good day.
Brilliant.
I worked very hard to be here. I'm going to be happy with it.
Yeah, totally. So you played, as you said, the utility zombie.
Yes.
Now, I'll put it up now as we're talking, the picture of you with your prosthetic and the very nice blue, great prosthetic makeup. Did Kenny Myers put that on you himself, or was it one of his team?
I think it was one of his team.
Right.
a lot of times, because when they would make these things, they weren't sure who they were going to get. They would make up, and they did this on People Under the Stairs as well. There was a guy in Ohio, in the States, who would make all the pieces, and they would just use different parts and pieces for any particular person. And the picture that you've got was a Polaroid that somebody just snapped, because if they needed you back, they were going to need to recreate that makeup as close to that as they could, so that there'd be continuity between that scene and another scene if they came back another day. And I remember, when I was a kid, I would do special effects makeup at home just for fun, just because I thought it would be cool. And so Halloween was always my favorite holiday to dress up and do Planet of the Apes or whatever the makeup was that I was going to do. And I remember sitting in the chair and people going, "Oh my gosh, you've been in that chair for 3 hours." I'm like, "I know, right?" It was like, this is a professional makeup artist. This is somebody, this is what they do. And they're so much better at this than I am. And so it was very realistic and very cool. And so I remember sitting in that chair thinking, how lucky am I? 3 hours of my day is spent in a makeup chair, having someone who's an expert at this, doing, this incredible job. And as much as those films were low budget, the special effects folks that did the makeup were very, very strong and did really, really solid work. So, and they too, they were out there trying to prove what they could do. Again, those low budget shows, you were using this as a springboard, potentially to something bigger and bigger budgeted. So I remember being very excited about being a zombie, because who, a zombie, come on, that's the best.
It's the best ever.
Want to be a zombie, and
Absolutely.
so I really enjoyed that part of it. And I think I was electrocuted at the end,
right?
That, and then I was also electrocuted as Tor, and then the stab in the mouth and the getting thrown off the catwalk and all that stuff. I just remember thinking, how much fun, because I said, he's not going to die. So how's he going to come back from this one?
Yeah,
he just does. That's what he does. What's
amazing. Amazing. Now,
don't kill the brain. You don't kill the ghoul.
Well, not in return. It just keeps on going. That's the thing. Especially from the first one, different with the second with the electric. But anyway, what I love about part 2 is that the special effects makeup that Kenny Myers did it's very akin to Tom Savini.
Yes.
Where you've got that blue hue sort of color. Really love the makeup effects on part 2. So the fact that you got to dress up as a zombie is just incredible.
And the whole wardrobe and the whole element of it. And they would and you see it in that video clip that we were talking about, the way they would train us. How would you move? How is your zombie going to move? And they would give you options to choose from, and you would pick up, and they would say, okay, well, show me what you would do. And so you would show them what they'd go, you're doing too much like this other guy over here. We need you to do something different. Give me something else. And, yes, let me see. What does my inner zombie say? What's my zombie motivated by? Brains. What do you think he's motivated by? And so I remember at the time, we took it very seriously. They really did. They had it was like a dance teacher, actually, who had given us the different elements of how you could walk and how you would stagger, and how based on how much decay, how much could you do? You were freshly dead, so you're a little more spry than the other guy. And one of the really cool effects in there is there's a scene where one of the zombies is basically shot in half by
yes,
and that stuntman was a man who was born without any lower torso.
Wow!
So they put him on a set of legs that were like stilts, and then bang, they shoot him off the top, and then he comes running along on his hands. And I remember at the time, that was freaky. That was like, oh man, that was pretty intense. And he was a cool guy, and that was his whole world was doing, that was his play in the movie business, was doing, these kind of
cut in half type people. Yeah.
I mean, you got lemons, make lemonade. So he, in fact, I remember his disability or ability was based on a birth defect, and so
Right.
he only had like 3 fingers. So there's like
Oh, I see. Right.
these 2 like that. And I remember seeing the guy, and I thought, oh my God, are you going to have fun on this film? Because they're going to use you for everything that they can use. And yeah, for him, it was like, yeah, this is a payday, and there weren't always paydays for someone in that work. So
Yeah.
he really made the best of it. So good for him.
That was amazing. That was amazing. So how long did you stay on the set for Return of the Dead Part 2?
2 weeks, which is
Right.
pretty good. That's as
Yeah.
a stunt person. Excuse me. A lot of times when you do something, if you're doubling a particular character, you do the stunts that character is associated with, and then you're done. So the fact that
Right.
they kept me on for the utility stuff, and it was just, I just remember thinking to myself, I'm on a weekly contract. Oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. And
Yeah.
like I said, I just stuck around just to stick around.
Yeah, just to watch it all happen.
Of filmmaking, and you're not allowed. You couldn't just say,
No.
come back tomorrow and just watch. No.
Shame. Would have been fun. Imagine that. Yeah. So now some of the scenes that you were mentioning. So you were on the catwalk, and that's you getting pushed over.
Yeah, and
That looks quite intense. When you watch it.
and it was a little more intense. Excuse me. Getting over. a
Let's
cold.
take a drink.
Yeah, let me take a quick sip here. Hang on.
Yeah, me too. I'll have one too.
Okay, the cool story
Perfect.
that goes with that. So I was telling you about Gary Davis. So he
Yeah.
says, you're going to get stabbed in the mouth and he's going to push. And I said, okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go feet straight over my head, and they're going to have a pad, like a high jump pit. And I want that put like this. And he said, no, put it like this. And I said, no, I want it like this. And he said, we're going to put it like this. And I said, I'm going to miss that. And he said, no,
Right.
you're not. And I said, no, because I'm going to put my feet straight over my head. He says, that's what you're going to try to do, and you're not going to do it. And I said,
Right.
I'm sorry, you're wrong. So he moved the pad and put it his way, and thank God he did, because I was wrong. And I fell.
Oh, wow.
And when I landed, I actually said, holy shit. And Bill, shh. And then the kid has his line. Because
Right.
I did land exactly the way Gary told me that I would land, and I was wrong. And fortunately, he had moved the pad the way he thought it was right, because he was protecting me and not letting me be a little stuck-up little snot that I was. Because he'd been through this, he'd done this kind of work for many more years than I had. And
Yeah.
he just knew, And a lot of times when you're a stunt person, you tell people the way you want things because, hey, it's your butt. If you get hurt, it's on you if you screw up. But Gary just knew that I had not quite enough experience of doing exactly that sort of thing, and he made sure
Right.
that it, was safe. And, even if I had landed incorrectly, I still would have been fine. It was a big enough pad.
Yeah.
But I could have whacked my head. I might have hit my head on the
Right.
ground after I hit the pad.
I see. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks,
Of course. Yeah.
Gary.
Because
Every
you do.
stunt coordinator is named Gary, by the way.
They're all Garys.
Everybody's Gary.
Everyone's a Gary. Brilliant. Excellent. Yeah, because when I watched that clip earlier, because I'm watching your video stuff on YouTube, I'll put a link to your YouTube channel down in the description for people to check it out as well. No problem. Your legs do go flying over that.
Yeah.
You really go.
I remember having that screwdriver in my mouth, and it was a little appliance. It was like something you just put in your mouth and you kind of hang on to it. And then
Right.
the screwdriver would just push in, like spring loaded, except it wouldn't come back out. And I remember thinking, going over that, nobody's going to see this. I really would rather not have something in my mouth. If I land face first, I'm going to put that through the back of my head. He's like, don't do that. I'm like, that's a good safety tip right there. Don't let the screwdriver go through the back of your head. Yeah. I'll try to remember that on the way down. But yeah, that kind of stuff, it's things where, somebody says, well, how do you prepare for that? I'm like, you just don't. You just kind of have to trust yourself and say, okay, try to be aware of that. I did a lot of martial arts when I was growing up. And so you learn how to, land without, you make sure you get onto your back and you do what we call slam out, where you try to take as much of the impact with as much of your body as you can, and slap the ground as you hit, so that you dissipate some of the energy, not just into your back, but into your arms, into your legs, into as much of you. Because if you land on one point, that's going to hurt. If you land flat, well, you're dissipating the energy over as much surface as you can. So I remember, doing that and just thinking, okay, get onto your back. It wasn't that far. It was probably only about 15 feet.
Right.
So it's not a lot of time to get ripped over. But yeah, when you watch it, I go, ooh, yeah, I could have blown it.
Yeah.
Didn't
You're
have a lot of
fast.
time.
You go fast. You really do.
Yeah, you don't realize how quickly you're falling.
Yeah, true. So when it came to the truck scene, obviously I've seen that behind the scenes video footage that you have where it hits you on that test run and you go flying back. So on the actual one, because it's a very quick cut scene in the movie. So does it play out exactly as that behind the scenes?
It's after I did that, the scene that you're talking about, they looked at me and they said, "What was this? What was with the hands?" And I said, "Well, it's going to hit me." And they said,
"It's a truck."
So? And I said, "Well, he's protecting himself." They said, "He's a zombie, Bill. He doesn't need protection. He's not afraid of getting run over by a truck because he's dead, Bill." I'm like, oh, shit. Okay. So I went back in and I padded up. I put as much padding as I could possibly have on the front of my body, knowing that in the next one I had to I got a chance to get my hands to about my rib section,
Yeah.
And they filmed it from inside as well as from the side. So what they had done was they took this big meat truck and they tied it to a pole that was like a telephone pole.
Right.
About 60 yards away, and there's this big long chain, and they said the truck is going to stop right here. The problem is you're standing here. So when it comes through this way, it's going to hit you, but it won't run you over, but it is going to knock you back. And so I looked back behind me and I said, "Can we get a rake real quick?" Because there was dirt behind me and I wanted to take all the big rocks out of the dirt so that when I hit it, I could kind of tuck and roll a little bit after it hit me. And when we actually saw the film, they used a dummy. They ran over another dummy.
Oh, really?
A non-living dummy. And if you watch it, in a DVD like I do, you see and you go, "Oh, that's not even me. You bastards hit me with that truck 3 times, and then you didn't use one take."
No.
So, they do show me running out. They do show it getting very, very close. But I guess no matter what they tried to do, I think it's probably my bad that I'm sure I made a face. Like,
it's a bit natural, isn't it? A truck's coming towards you.
Even as a zombie, I don't know how you brace without, making some sort of facial expression, zombie or not. But yeah, I remember getting hit a couple of times and really going flying back. And somebody had asked me, my brother Larry was a 9th degree black belt, and they said to me, "You ever been hit by anything that hard?" And I said, "You have no idea. My brother Larry threw a kick much worse than that, knock you back farther and, clean you out." And they're like, "So you've been hit like this?" I'm like, "I've been hit harder." Yeah.
Yeah.
I always tell people,
harder than a truck.
Time flies when you're getting hit by a truck. So, time and me fly when you get hit, when you get hit by a truck. But
That's
that was
amazing.
another one of those ones where I thought about it at the time. Could I actually get hurt doing this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could. I mean, when I talk about, being a stuntman, the fear of getting hurt makes you think through all the different possibilities. So what could happen? Make sure you're centered, because if for whatever reason the truck was to break loose from that chain that they tied it to, I didn't think it was going to, but don't be in line with the wheel, safety.
Yeah.
Don't, if it is going to come, let it go over you, not into you, not no wheels across your body. Make sure that the dirt behind you doesn't have any big rocks or sticks or, whatever, because that happens. You try to find all the different variables that you can control, and then it's on you. Once all the variables have been removed, you're like, all right, so now it's about me. Now it's about letting the truck hit me. What I try to do, and it's something, you've got your body here. If you get up onto your toes and try to almost even get into the air a little bit, when it hits you, you're just going to go. Versus trying to stand there and it's and it's going to flatten you, and then you're going to hit the ground very, very hard. You're going to slap the ground as opposed to being, sort of thrown through the air. Being thrown through the air sounds worse, but it's not. It's way better because then your body and the it's being absorbed by being thrown, and so the energy again is sort of dissipated over the distance. I sound like I'm a physicist all of a sudden. I'm not that smart, but the idea is that you want to go with it. Don't try to resist the force. Let it where it's going to go. And so I think at that time I remember thinking, all right, well, we've thought it out, and Gary's a good stunt coordinator. He wasn't going to let anything happen to me, obviously. And so we just, all right, let's see what happens. And in the moment I remember thinking, this is still fun. This is still good stuff.
Yeah.
I wasn't, you get excited. I wouldn't say scared. That's different. But you are, you want to hit your marks. You want to do it right. And there was always for me the sense that this is going on film. Good, bad, or indifferent, this is your work. You want it to be, if the film was not well written or whatever, that's doesn't mean I have any excuse for not doing my best work and making sure that I do it as best as I can. Make it look good. If it's gonna if it's gonna look like you got hit by a truck, make it look like you got hit by a truck. That's the job. So sell it.
Brilliant.
And that's a big part of stunts too. Is sometimes the hit is not nearly as bad as it looks, but the stunt person is selling it. You go back and you go flying through the air and you make sure that it looks as big and as complicated as it can be. So people go, it's like, it wasn't that bad. I made it look much worse than it was.
Amazing. So that in those little clips that I will, if it's okay with you, I will show them on this thing as well.
So go for it.
Oh, right. Okay, cool. I'll put them in so people can get to see it.
Yeah.
So there's two clips. There's obviously Ken saying about, the trucks coming in from here and you're doing that look. I did notice that look. I thought, what was that about?
Not the first time I thought, I could see myself making that face. This is Point of Impact. And in fact, some of my friends from church said they saw the video because I posted it to my Instagram. And they said, hey, it's William Point of Impact Perry. And I'm like, oh, boy, I'm going to for that for a while. But that look on my face, he goes, this is Point of Impact. I'm like, oh, great.
It's like this. I am somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know what he meant, though. Yeah.
Yeah. I was a human being for a minute. Now I'm just the point of impact. Now I'm an ink spot on the ground.
Yeah.
But I think it's fun, and I love seeing those things. One of my buddies, Lee Waddell, was the Ghostface in Scream, and we found a clip of him, and he's chasing down Drew, and he stabs her, and then she goes to the ground. And I remember at the time it was very traumatic because Drew's a great actress, and Wes would use this thing where he was talking to her, and he was trying to get her into this moment. And the story is that that night before, he asked her, what's the most horrible thing you can imagine? And she had told the story of, she was very much into animal rights, and of these two boys had taken a dog and lit it on fire.
Oh, geez, wow.
Horrible.
Yeah.
So as getting ready to do the scene, Wes is working with Drew, and he says, Drew, can you smell the gasoline? And all of a sudden, you can just see it on her face. And he's like, they're lighting the matches, Drew. And she gave him permission to do this. Because he needed to get her to that place, But the thing is, he had done all that, and then you see him stab her, and she runs, and he throws her to the ground. And in the video, and you can find this on YouTube, she hits the ground, they yell cut, and then she jumps up and she does the little Mary Lou Retton, dismount, and has a big smile on her face and starts laughing. And everybody, cheers for her. And it's like she was able to turn it on and turn it off that quick.
Amazing.
And so when you see these, things, you got to remember that, you're doing these intense, scenes sometimes. But as an actor, you can't stay there forever, and you don't want to because it's kind of a dark place to be. So you find ways, And so when you see these this footage, sometimes you forget over the course of time. Oh yeah, that's right. She did that whole dismount thing. Oh, that's so funny. That she, what a great little actress, That, and so you kind of these long undiscovered things. There was a thing in Predator 2 where they brought there was a bunch of members of the Lakers basketball team that they brought in, and they were all the Predators at the very end when Danny Glover has killed the one, and he's, all right, who's next? And all of a sudden there's all these other Predators. Well, they were all members of the Lakers. And,
big guys. Yeah.
They do a whole dance number that they did.
I've seen that. That's amazing. Yeah.
And once again, it's like, oh my gosh, I completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
And they were having, some fun with it. And the interesting story of it is they came to me just before they had filmed that scene about a week before, and they said, hey, can you be a Predator?
Really?
You've seen me in person, right? I mean, I'm talking to them, 5 feet away. And they said, yeah. And I said, I don't know that I've got the height for the Predator. And they said, no, that's the reason we want you. They said, what they had a little tiny Danny Glover guy, an actor that was, I think I don't know if it was a kid or a little person, but they had a guy, and they said it would be so much cheaper to make the suits on 5 guys that are 5'6", and then have a 4'6" Danny Glover.
Right.
So it'd be cheaper to make the suits, and in the end they decided no, we want full-sized Predators. So, but I was so disappointed when they told me
you nearly could have been a Predator.
How cool would it be? One of my favorite things about the whole aftermath of making Predator 2 was Dark Horse Comics. Made a Predator 2 comic book, and they drew my character saying my lines. So
no way
do I exist in the film lexicon, I'm in a comic book.
Comic book as well.
That is so cool. Movies is one thing. Comic books are eternal. Yes. And so, I have a couple. Now they took the 5 guys of us and they turned it into just 2, and they kind of split things up. But there's a guy who looks enough like me that I can say it's me, and he says my lines. So damn it, right? It's me.
You're in the comic book. 100%.
God damn it, I'm in that comic book.
Dark Horse as well.
Very, 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 very cool. And I remember when it came out, I remember thinking, this will be so much fun to have the comic book from the movie I was in. And then I saw that my character was in it. I figured they'd just skip that scene. It wouldn't be that big a deal. But no, there I was. I was like, oh, I am now immortal. That's like they call it the EGOT, where you get the Emmy, the Grammy, the Tony, the Oscar. No, I've got the sort of stuntman's EGOT. I'm in the film and I'm in the comic book. It's only 2, but it's good enough.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
Yeah, amazing. So I do want to touch on your other movies. So while we're talking about Predator 2, the fact that you got to be in scenes with Bill Paxton.
Oh,
now you did on one of your videos. You talked about your time chatting with Bill Paxton. Can you tell us that story? That's just amazing.
Yeah. I get there and I see a chair and it says Bill on it. So I go and sit down. My name's Bill, right? And Bill Paxton walks up to me from behind and says, is your name Bill? And I turned and I said, yes. And he goes, oh, is it really? And I said, yeah. He goes, you're in my chair. I said, oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And he goes, no. Sit down. And I'm dressed in my whole, gang outfit.
Yeah.
I'm not a street-looking guy at all.
No.
And he says, what are you doing here today? And I said, I'm just one of the gang members. And he says, don't say it that way. And I said, well, it's not that big a deal. And he's like, did you ever see Terminator? Of course, everybody saw Terminator. It was, biggest films ever at the time. And he said, in the beginning, that was my first role that anybody really recognized me in. He'd done some other little parts, but that was the one where he got noticed. And he said, today's that day for you. And do not let this day escape without you enjoying it. You never get this chance to do this again. Is this your first speaking role? And I said, God, does it show? And he's like, yeah, it shows a little bit. And I said, I've been an actor for many years, but this is my first time actually getting a line, in a big budget movie. And he said, 6 months from now, you're going to go to a movie theater. And this is back before the multiplexes. And he said, you're going to be 90 feet across. And that's going to be you up there. And you never get this moment back. Enjoy it. Relax. Enjoy every moment of do your best work. Because this is the chance that you get to do that. And today, your career takes off like mine did. And I was just, I mean, I truly get really emotional thinking, because what a nice thing to do. What a kind human being. He could see here was some, kid who was clearly rattled by this opportunity and a little bit nervous. And, I was trying to be cool, but I was nervous. And he was just said the nicest thing to help me calm down and enjoy what was possibly one of the best weeks of my life,
Amazing.
And I just remember thinking, how cool was that? Because I did calm down. I did take a deep breath. I did really put myself into that time and just say, you don't have a lot of this. Slow down. Because sometimes, something really great happens and you're like, gosh, it all happened so quick. Like, your wedding day or whatever. It's like, I don't remember any of that. It was such a whirlwind. It was 12 hours, but gosh, it seemed like it was 10 minutes. And this seemed like 4 days, because it was 4 days.
Amazing.
And I took each day very, very carefully. And I remember going to the commissary at 20th Century Fox Studios dressed in my silly outfit, and people were asking me what I was working on. And I just remember thinking, I'm finally the actor that I wanted to be in a big budget film, and Bill facilitated that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Would not, if I would have let it go. I was just too rattled any other way.
Right.
And what a kind guy. He passed away a handful of years ago. And I just remember it really hit me, because he wouldn't remember me. I don't know. Maybe he might. I doubt it. But that's who he was. And he was that way to everybody. I've heard so many people after that story, somebody had videotaped me telling that story. Videotape? Oh my God, how old am I? I just said, like such a thing exists.
VHS. Hey, I've got my VHS here.
Let me get my camcorder.
Yeah.
Get my Super 8 out.
Yeah.
But somebody had taped that and shown it, and so many people wrote to me and said, I had a very similar story with Bill. He was that kind of guy. This is who he was. And just a kind, generous, decent guy who really wanted to help everybody, be and do their best.
Yeah.
And it's those kinds of stories where, when people ask me, were you ever really rattled by, were you ever starstruck, and it's like, I think I was by Bill Paxton, but he absolutely made sure that was not going to be the way that interaction ended. In the end, I felt like we were best buddies. What a cool guy to do that and just take the time and make somebody who was, a little bit nervous. And I hope that it impacted my role. I hope that, I missed only a handful of lines before I get killed, but I hope that I made the best of them based on, that interaction with him and him, telling me to calm down and enjoy it. There was a stunt at the end of that too, where after the predator has burst in, and he grabs me and he throws me across the room, and I land on top of Maria. And
that's right.
Maria had a really bad shoulder injury from something that had happened the day before. And so I'm laying on top of her, and she has to get me off of her to get up and escape the predator thing. And we're sitting in there, and they said, be very careful, be very gentle. Maria's, got a hurt shoulder. And I said, okay, I don't want to hurt you. So, you tell me, I can do sort of like a push-up thing, and I'll hold myself above you so that I'm not actually laying on top of you. And she said, no. But do you think I could get you off with one hand? And I said, you'd have to buy me a drink first. And I remember Bill just bust up, and she's just, her eyes are rolled. This was in the days before HR would have thrown me in the for that. But I remember him just busting up and high-fiving me. I was like, sorry.
Amazing.
No, that's those are the moments that kind of make a little more memorable, and everybody, it kind of gets everybody off guard, and you get to relax and take a deep breath and get back to making your movie again. But the poor stunt girl that they threw me into, I had these boots that had big metal plates across the shin, and they said, can you run and jump into her? But I had to be up on top of this, on a board that was set across the top of the seats in order to be up that high. And there was no way to run because I short as I am, it was, very. And so what they did was they got the biggest crew member to just grab onto my belt and just throw me on top of her.
Wow.
I had no control. And so I got him right in the face with those boots. And they were heavy, and they had, chrome, plates on them, right in the face. And so when we got to the part where it was supposed to be Maria, I thought, they should probably, get you, busted up a little bit. Maybe the makeup make you look a little. They said, no, you're never going to see it. And as it turns out, nobody even knows what happened unless I tell you that.
Right. Okay.
The next time you see me, I'm hanging by my ankles, and Maria sees me, and there's blood all over my face, and I'm hanging by my feet. And they're giving a chiropractic adjustment to Jerry.
That's an amazing story. Wow, that's great. I like I say, I watched a majority of your scenes earlier, and I watched it, and I was just like, oh my god, Predator 2. For me, growing up, I remember Predator 2. My friend bought it on VHS, and on the back it said, sometime in the future in 1990.
Yeah, it was 1997.
That was it. Sorry, 97.
That was the
right.
Far from now, 20 years.
That's
from now
right.
Yeah,
because it was 88. Was it 88 Predator 2? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
it's crazy to think.
And the idea that it would be global warming is taken over. And, and the streets are ruled by the gangs. I'm like, how far off were we, would you say? I'll give them a 7 out of 10. Not too bad. Pretty good prediction. And I remember when I auditioned for that role, they said, we're looking for gang members. Well, I didn't know that until I got there. And
really?
I'm this preppy little guy, a very little, kind of looked a little bit like Scott Baio, a little teen heartthrob kind of look. And I thought, there is no chance I'm getting this part. I mean, I could tell. And I go in, and there was the guy that says, I bet mine's bigger than yours. It's got him Alex.
Yeah.
And they had Alex and I auditioning together. And I look over at Alex, and he's got this big tuft of white hair coming out of the front of his, because he had a birthmark there, and the hair just grew white. And he's got this nose that looks like it's been broken at least 100 times. And he's a big dude, and he's got tattoos of spider webs in his armpits and tattoos of flies all over him, like the flies are crawling out of his armpits.
Right.
And I look at him like, oh, he's getting the part. I'm not, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And he was very fun, and we had a lot of fun with the audition process. And so as we were going in, they said, okay, one of you is the gang leader, and then the other is the crony. Well, obviously, I'm going to be the crony because I'm the little guy. And I knew I wasn't going to get the part, so I didn't care. I was just going to make sure Alex looked good. Alex was fun. And so we do it, and they said, okay, now switch places. And I'm like, oh, they really, really want to see what Alex can do. This is awesome. And I remember just devoting myself to making sure that Alex looked good. And so I played off of everything he did, and they were laughing and having a good time with it. So about 2 weeks later, I mean, I didn't get it, I knew. So I got it about 2 weeks later, and they said, hey, this is Lynn Stallmaster casting. We wanted to talk to you about playing the gang leader. And I said, oh, you got the wrong guy. And they said,
did you say?
I said, you're thinking of Alex. Alex was the big guy. And they said, no, we want you. I said, I don't understand. And they said, it was so funny watching you basically order around these gorillas, behind you, that we thought that was really funny. We thought that your take on it was really funny. I'm like, I didn't have a take on it. So that I thought. Learned a lot about auditioning that day. Worry about your interaction with the other actor, not about yourself.
Right.
It totally changes the way, because then you're paying attention. It's real. It's much more real than it is if you're trying to give the casting director or director what it is you think they want.
Yeah.
Just do what you want to do. Go and have some fun with it. Play with the other actor. And so, and I was like, oh, this is so great. Well, then about a month later, I was thinking, gosh, I thought we were going to be shooting by now. They called me back, hey, Mr. Perry, good news. I said, oh, well, what's the good news? They said, your part's been reinstated. Reinstated? And they said, yeah. And I said, from what? And they said, oh, we had cut the whole subway scene, but they decided to put it back. I'm like, oh, shit, you guys had fired me and I didn't even know. They said, didn't even know? And I said, no, nobody told me. And they said, oh, well, I guess maybe it's better this way. I'm like, yeah, I would have been so heartbroken, So
Yeah.
heartbreaking. If I had known for a whole month that they had cut the scene and that I wasn't going to be used,
Yeah.
devastated. I probably would have quit. I'd be like, that's it. My big chance is gone. I'm done.
Yeah.
Screw this business. But they said, yeah, you've been reinstated. I'm like, oh, how nice. And they were going to take us to San Francisco and shoot in the actual BART, the Bay Area Rapid Transit System up there. But instead, because there was no, they were actually digging the LA subway system at the time. We didn't have one, so they brought a couple of cars down from San Francisco and made it look like it was moving by just shaking the whole thing, and we're bouncing around.
The lights down the
the
sides.
lights going through the windows and that sort of stuff. But yeah,
amazing.
All total fake out. But yeah, when it was all said and done, and when I watched them, I'm like, yeah, that looked pretty good. And they said, yeah, they actually did film some trains going by up in San Francisco, but they just threw a one camera guy up there and just said, okay, you just film this thing going by, and then we'll intersperse it into the movie, and it'll look good. And I think it did look good. I mean, it sold it to me. I believed it.
100%. Yeah. No, it was great. I mean, you must have been, I suppose, with any of your movies now, so you get the opportunity to go and see it on the big screen. What is that like?
Oh,
first time.
I mean, I keep getting all emotional, but I remember walking into a theater in Pasadena, California, not far from where I lived. It was the biggest screen that there was anywhere in town, and it was like an old school major movie theater. And I think there were probably 500 or 600 seats, maybe more, in this huge theater, 90 plus feet across. And I'm watching this with my friends, and we're watching this, and there I am. It was like,
amazing.
Oh my gosh, there I am. And I was like embarrassed, and I was like,
yeah,
gosh. And my wife's like, that was you, honey, that was you. And I was like, that was me. I was only up there for a minute, but that was me. That was my thing. That was my part. And I just remember being so excited and so, again, just realization of dream come true.
Yeah.
Because now, and then this was, and that week, the first week, it wasn't the number one film for very long, but it was number one for a week. So I could actually say to myself, I was in the number one film in the whole country, if not the whole world, for a week.
Amazing.
I was part of that. And, I watch it now, and it'll come on TV, and my wife will go, do you want to watch your scene? I'm like, thank you. There was a time when this was impressive. I get it. It's long gone. But, she's like, well, I guess we have a residual check coming. I'm like, yeah, I get a little respect.
Exactly.
A little dignity for, But, yeah, I still watch it when if it's on, if I see Predator 2's on, as I'm scrolling through all the channels. If I see it, I'll go look real quick and see where we are, in the film.
Yeah.
Pretty much where it comes in. And it's like, oh, no, it's already done. Or, no, it's going to be another half hour. Let's not wait. But if I know it's coming up soon, I'm like, oh, yeah, we're watching this.
Amazing.
It's such a reminder of a good time. I don't think of it as, the Academy overlooked my scene. Maybe one day they'll right this wrong. But I do look at it, and I remember that time. And I remember it very, very vividly and very, very fondly because it was such a big deal to me at the time. And as I do, conventions and stuff, I remember that there are a lot of people who would love to have been there, who would love who would love to be in that space, even for just a moment. And we joke that the farther you get away from Hollywood, the more interesting you become. Because I've seen people who were, I was in Alabama last year. Excuse me, and the tour promoter or the convention promoter took me out to lunch at this catfish restaurant. They were going to show me what Alabama food was really like. And this woman, excuse me, this woman sees me, and I had my Lost Boys jacket on.
Nice.
She said, oh, that's my favorite movie. I said, oh, me too. I love that movie. And the promoter says, he was in that movie. Now, we're in the middle of, someplace in the hills of Alabama. And this woman goes, no, you was not. And I said, yes, I was too. And she said, will you sign something for me? And I said, of course. So she grabs a styrofoam bowl. Now, there was nothing more awkward to try to sign than this little. I said, honey, we're going to be here for a little bit. Go find something.
Yeah.
I said, do we have any of the posters from the show or something we can give to her? And she was so blown away. And it's like, lady, I'm not worth this pedestal you've put me on, but okay. And so I signed a little something, and she sat next to me, and we took a picture, and she was so excited. And as much as I feel completely unworthy of this kind of adoration, it's still nice. It's not bad. It's still fun. And when you do the shows, you recognize that, like somebody says, were there any other actors that really sucked and were really mean? It's like, if there were, and maybe there was one here and there, I would never tell you.
No,
because
of course.
I don't really want to talk about the bad times. There were so few.
No.
I wouldn't want to have that carry more weight than was its due.
Than the good time you had.
Moments, not days. Seconds, not minutes. And when somebody finds out that you were in the movies and you're, someplace where they've never even met an extra before, they want to know something fun. And they want to know something, magical, some piece of movie magic that you were a part of. And so I make sure all I tell them about. I only give them the good stories because, again, I don't want to tell them a bad story because then it's like, oh, I thought it was fun. It looked like
exactly.
Fun.
Yeah.
And now I've destroyed the mystique. I don't want to do that to anybody. They want to, and for the most part, it was all the fun you can have with your pants on. I mean, it was great. It was fun, and people, and you're working with great people who are, and that someday this is going to be on a screen someplace, and that people are going to watch and enjoy it. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with any part of that, and I don't want to have anybody think even a little bit less of that experience because it was great.
Yeah,
and that's what they want to hear.
Totally.
They want to hear the good parts. As much as people think gossip is good, it tears the whole situation down.
Yeah, of course.
I don't need it. Neither do they. They think they want it, but they don't in the end. In the end, it's like knowing the end of a magic trick. You're like, oh, that's pretty simple. And you've taken away the magic of the magic trick. Sometimes it's fun to hear a little one, like, Penn and Teller do a great job of showing you the trick, and then they show you how it's done. And you're like, oh. And then they do the trick without doing it the way they just showed it to you. And now the magic's back.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way when I tell somebody about a scene in the film, I'll tell them about how it was done, and they love that part. But then they watch it again, and they said, I forgot to look because I got all drawn into the movie again. It's like, oh, good. I don't want to ruin anything for you. I'd like to enhance it. I don't want to tear it up.
I've got to say, your enthusiasm for your job, you could easily just inspire people to become, stuntmen, stuntwomen, or however, you could, because your enthusiasm is so, it's great. It's really good. It's nice because it's nothing, like you say, nothing worse to have someone on who kind of goes, it was all right. It's just not, you give it, you really, if you were selling it, you're selling it really well.
I met a very famous baseball player in an airport one time, and it just so happened that my son played the same position, had the same number for a team also by the same name. And this guy was very, very famous. He was top of the game at the time. And I went up and I asked him real quick. I just tore off a scrap of yellow pad, and I said, can I get it? I said, my son plays the same position you do. Can I get an autograph for him? And I said, his name is Jack. And he said, I don't do that shit. And I had waited until he was alone. He wasn't talking to me. He wasn't eating. I mean, you don't want to bother somebody when they're trying to catch a meal. But he was in an airport. He was standing by himself. We were all just waiting to get on the plane. And And it really struck me. It's like, I asked so little. It's not like I was going to take this and sell it on eBay, because I know that's what some people are afraid of. They don't want to, devalue something and then just have somebody else make money. And I didn't ask for 5. I asked for 1 to my little boy Jack.
For your son, yeah.
And when you disappoint someone and you're disappointing them because they were doing something for their kid, you might as well have just kicked a puppy. You're nobody's friend anymore. And I remember thinking to myself, if anybody ever came to me like that, I would sign anything and everything, because all I want is just a little piece of your time, a little piece of your attention. And it's a thrill for them, even though maybe this isn't such a big deal to you, and maybe you feel a little unworthy. He didn't feel unworthy. That wasn't the issue. He felt, like I wasn't worthy of asking for some reason. And I was just like, oh, how horrible. Because the thing is, baseball is one of those sports that you want to be. It's just like, like a movie star or anything else. It's something you dream of when you're a little kid. And if you make it to the show, as they call it, most guys that I've met that are professional athletes recognize in the way that I do that enthusiasm that, this is a dream job for a lot of people. And remember that and be humble because you've been given something you don't really deserve in a way. It's not like, you have a particular skill that you've developed but you were given the physique. You were given a lot of this that you've trained. But a lot of guys have that, and a lot of guys train. But you made it to the show. Lucky you. Fortunate you. Remember that there are other people who tried just as hard that didn't get the shot that you got. So suck it up and be nice. Just for 30 seconds. How much? It costs nothing to be nice.
Yeah.
And so when I do the shows, I don't always have a line of people waiting to say hello to me. So if somebody's sitting there, I got nobody else in line. Let's have sit down. Let's hang out.
Let's have a chat. Yeah.
Have a little chat. It costs me nothing. And then for them, they're like, I met Bill Perry and he was a really nice guy. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, And my enthusiasm, I'm as big a fan of these movies as you guys are. So when people talk about, how do you deal with the fans? I'm like, I am the fan. I'd enjoy this stuff too. I mean, I'll run across and go see if I can find Tom Matthews and go, hey, Tom, remember me? I'm Bill Perry. I worked on the, most of these people wouldn't remember me. I wasn't, I'm not always working with the cast as much as I'm working with the second unit. Here and there, I would work with them. But I'm a fan too. And, it's fun to see these folks. And if they do remember me, I'm very excited to know that they remembered me, just like you would be if you saw me at a show a second time and said, remember me? Yeah, I remember you. Of course I do. We met on your thing. It feels good to be heard and remembered and that sort of stuff. So when I do these things, I usually will try, in the 10 or 15 minutes just before the show opens, run around and go and, shake hands and just to geek out just like anybody else. And most of them do the same thing too. They remember, That's amazing. And they feel fortunate and lucky to have that opportunity to be there. So anybody who doesn't enjoy it, I've met a couple of guys that said, you should do conventions. They're like, that's not for me. I don't really like meeting new people. I'm like, then stay the F away. Because the last thing you need is somebody that's there who feels entitled and is grumpy or in a bad mood. These people deserve every bit of energy you have.
Exactly.
Big smile. Like I have a Freddy glove, and it's made by a guy named Anders Ericsson, who makes the gloves for Robert Englund. Not brilliant. Movies. He makes replicas, but he makes the replicas that Robert gives away. So he made one for me, and so I had it made for my little dinky hands. But when people come to my table, I'm like, "Do you want to wear the glove?" And they're like, "No way." I'm like, "Way." And they're like,
yes, way.
I don't have any money left. It's like, I'm not charging you for putting the glove on. Now put the glove on and take a picture. And they're like, seriously? It's like, I recognize it, dude. It's cooler than hell to have a Freddy glove. It makes you feel all cool and murderous. It's the best, and so that's what the shows are about. You hang out with people that are just as big a fan as you are, and then you get a chance to give them a little something to, make that show a little more fun. I have a full Return of the Living Dead. People Under the Stairs. I had the mask and everything deteriorated and fell apart, and somebody probably just threw away my outfit. So I went to a friend of mine who works at Universal and said, I want you to replicate this outfit, tear for tear, stain for stain. And I sent her all the pictures I could find and said, replicate this. And then I went to the guy in Ohio and said, I want this mask made. And he said, I don't do that anymore, but there's a guy named Jordan who won Face Off, who is also here, and I'll call him for you, and I'll tell him how I did it. And so he made a People Under the Stairs, what I call scrotum mask. And so when I do shows, I have that, and people are like, is that the real one? It's like, no, that deteriorated a long time ago, but this is as close as you're going to get to screen used. I mean, it's screen accurate for sure. And just that, like, can I see what it feels like? It's like, be gentle, but they're still fragile. And when you give them a little chance to sort of just have a feel of what it's like to be, in that, to wear that glove, to see that outfit or take a picture. I do the photo ops where I put the full makeup on and everything. And I'm doing a show later this year in September where the rest of the cast, Jan and Brandon and Sean are going to be there. And I put the full suit on because nobody's going to recognize me without it because I was wearing the suit the whole time. But, we can do photo ops and people are like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I'm with the actual guys, and there's a guy dressed just like one of them, and I recognize how much fun that is. It's fun for me too. They think that it's all about them. And they're like, no, man, I mean, I'm doing it for you, but I'm having as much fun as you are, I promise you.
Amazing.
If you don't have that enthusiasm, why do it?
Exactly.
There's an actor, like I say, I don't tell negative stories, so I won't mention his name, but he was a title character. And he was sitting next to my friend Lee, and I was watching him, and I worked on a film with him, so I went over and introduced myself, and he just kind of gave me a look. And somebody had come up to him and paid him $80, which is, I guess, 115 pounds, 120 pounds. And it said, can we do this pose like you did in the movie? And he looked at the guy, and he goes, really, dude? And he just took the picture. Now, this,
that's a lot of money.
$80. And he walks away, and you could just see it in his face. He's like, never meet your heroes. And I looked at my buddy Lee, and I said, don't you ever leave someone walking away like that. He goes, dude, I wouldn't. And he goes, that was horrible. And it paid a whole bunch of money. I mean, that's, practically a day's wages for most people. And for what? To be treated like, like you weren't really, like asking him to play up, to ham it up in front of the camera was too much.
Yeah.
We did a Nightmare on Elm Street show here, and the gal that was in Nightmare 4 became a cockroach. I watched it the other night, actually. I watched Nightmare 4 the other night. The scene is so horrifying. Gosh, what is her last name?
Let me have a look.
Oh my!
Let me have a look. It might be here.
Yes, please look it up, and I'll just tell the story anyway. So we're doing this.
Yeah.
We're doing this this event, and as this guy was taking pictures for the photo ops, gosh, I can't think of it until you say it. I cannot get through it. Brooke. Sorry, her name is Brooke.
Yeah.
Brooke.
Yeah.
Now,
you found it before I could find it on here.
Well, if you hadn't picked it up, I wouldn't have. So Brooke is there with us, and she is just the kindest, friendliest, nicest person. And so this guy starts doing the photo ops, and a guy came dressed as Freddy, and he looked pretty good. A little chunkier than the original, but he looked like him. And
he liked his pies.
She is hamming it up like no tomorrow. She is having so much fun with it. And people afterward were like, Brooke Thies is the coolest person you would ever want to meet. I'm like, I totally agree with you. She was this way back in the 80s.
Yeah.
She's still this way. And she was just so much fun. And she was just so enjoying doing it. And she and I talked. And she and I were kindred spirits just about the whole, convention thing. She doesn't do as many conventions as she might have back in the day, but she loves doing them, and she loves meeting the fans. And it's just so evident in everything she does. And I'm looking at the pictures people are posting on Instagram and Facebook where she's just such a ham. But having such a good time with it, and people are like, this was like the highlight of my life, if not, the last 5-10 years. And it's like, see how little it took to be the highlight in someone's day or week or month or whatever. It takes so little.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? So
exactly.
when people invite me out to these shows, I'm like, you have no idea how much fun I'm going to have. Just get out of the way because Bill's going to be having a good old time. And they're like, wow, you'd do this for free. I'm like, well, I need to pay for the the trip. So, no, not exactly. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad to do it. And I love telling the stories and hanging out and meeting the other folks. So yeah, I do them as often as I can.
Amazing. Well, I do hope that, fingers crossed, you come over to the UK and we get to meet in person. That would be amazing.
Yeah, For Love of Horror is one of those shows that it's a destination. I know people that have flown over or come over from France. People have come over just for that show because they get such a great crowd and they get great people. And then the atmosphere is just too much fun. It's not just a signing event. It's something more.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it'd be great. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I'd be really looking forward to that. That'd be
Any
great.
other? I know this is a. I'm going to be seeing Linnea actually. I think in September as well. Linnea Quigley from the first.
Yes.
First one. So I'm looking for. I've not met her. We were supposed to do a show last year, and then she had to bow out because she had a filming thing, and then there was another time she wasn't feeling well. She couldn't make. But I think September we're finally going to meet, and we're going to swap stories of zombies and apocalypse.
Amazing. That's amazing. I did meet her. Was it? Yeah, For Love of Horror. Actually, the last For Love of Horror, Linnea was there, and she was surprisingly shorter than me, which is saying something. If I'm 5'4", so you're probably going to overpower.
Yeah, I'll feel like Kevin, just standing up. And,
I
like
can
Kevin
Peter Hall,
man. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that'd be great if you could get to meet her. We have a lot
of mutual friends that have said, "Oh, you got to meet Linnea. You're going to have the greatest time with her. She's so much fun." And she's another one who just really enjoys doing the shows, and it just shows in every interaction. When she has time, you have her full attention, and that's right. That's important to do because I think it's what makes. Because I tell people the picture or the poster you sign or the Funko Pop or whatever it is you sign for folks. That's the excuse to get 3 minutes of your time. Yeah. Or however many you can give them. And I'm really conscious of that. Because they can go on YouTube and buy that. Not YouTube. They can go on eBay and buy that stuff. They're out there. I've done signings where all I did was sit and sign as fast as I can sign for hours at a time. So if somebody wanted a picture that bad, they could get one without having to. And they could probably even pay less because now they got to pay for the parking and they got to pay for the show.
Yeah.
And, all the rest. So when somebody shows up to that, they want to meet you. A guy I was in Ohio last year, and I asked this guy, "So where'd you come from?" And he said, "Canada." And I said, "No, I mean to come to the show." He goes, "Canada." And I said, "Oh my gosh, that's a heck of a drive. Who are you here to see?" "You." I'm like,
"No
Get
way."
Out of here. And he's like, amazing. "No." And he opens up this poster, and there's Bill Paxton's signature. He says, "Can you sign right below Bill?"
Wow.
And I was like, "Dude, I don't want to F up your poster, dude. I mean, that's Bill Paxton right there, dude." And he's like, "It's not going to be right. It's not going to be complete until you sign it." I was like,
amazing.
You're killing me. You're just killing me. And, how do you not feel like $1 million after that? How do you not feel like a star just even for a moment? And people will do that. They'll come great distances. And there's a thing we call completists. Completists are the folks that have to have every signature, every cast member alive. And I end up, being, the guy. I see a lot of other signatures before mine came up. But when they see me, they're like, can you? It's like, of course, And
amazing.
The amount of time and energy they've invested and money they've invested in getting all those signatures because that film means something to them. And you get to be a little piece of that poster. Or people who do their own artwork. And they're like, can you sign this? I did one guy actually did a picture of me, and I was like, and Lee has told me about
amazing.
People, they'll say, "Can you sign my leg?" And he's like, "Your leg?" And they come back an hour later, and now it's a tattoo.
That's right.
They go to some tattoo artist down the hall, and somebody, actually puts that on there, and he's like, there's nothing that makes you feel unworthy like somebody marking their flesh with your name. It's like, please don't do this to yourself. And they're like, no, this is the greatest. And okay, I'm here.
Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. No, great stuff. Now, before we come close to wrapping up, because I could probably go on for another 2 hours.
Me too.
It's amazing. I'm loving this. I'm not sure if I've got enough battery left, but I'll try my best. But I'd like to ask you about what you did in The Lost Boys, because there's not much documented about that out there, is there?
No, there isn't. The Lost Boys, The Lost Boys is one of those movies people will say, if you had to watch one of your movies over and over and over for the rest of your life, you couldn't watch any of the others. And I would say, as films go for just sheer amazing quality, great script, great cast, and just a damn good movie, it's Lost Boys. And I doubled the Coreys back in the day, so I would double either Corey Feldman or Corey Haim.
No way, that's amazing.
Drive as well.
Yes.
And so whenever they would, whenever either one of them was doing a film, I'd often get the call, especially if both of them, and they were working, on films together for quite a while.
Yeah.
And so I would get out and I'd get to double one of them. And the scene that we were working on was, it's towards the end. The vampires are outside and they're trying to get in. And of course, I was thinking, well, how are they going to get in unless you invite them in? And it's like, no, that's one of those things you did. You allowed the lead vampire in, so now they can come in. They don't have to knock. So they said what's going to happen is, I think it was not Marco, the big dark-haired guy. He's going to come in through the fireplace. And I thought,
that's right.
Okay, he's going to come down the chimney. No. They
You're
had a cast of him, like a dummy made out of whatever they make that out of, and he's like this, and they shot him out of a cannon through the back of the fireplace.
Wow.
Yeah, that would have been a nice warning, by the way. I think he's going to come flying down through it, and no, he comes, blazing at me, and the way they showed it, you don't see me. But I'm there. I'm just off to the right of, because I think what they do this something they call pan and scan, where they just literally move in on the shot. So the shot's wide, but they zoomed in onto that. So I'm there, getting a mouthful of plaster dust in my face and from the explosion of the thing. But there I was, and I was on the show for a little bit. They kept saying, we're going to use you for this. And then if Corey or either of the Coreys were saying, oh, I think I could do that. I'll do that. We'll do that. And so I was there for the better part of a week and did very, very little, really, in the end. I mean, or very little that ended up on screen. So we would do these things, and then you'd get a chance to, see it on film. But it's one of my favorites. Love Jason Patrick. Kiefer Sutherland's just amazing.
Yeah.
Weast, and the show was a party. Everybody on that show, including Alex Chapman, the guy who's also the guy who was one of the gang members in Predator 2, is also one of the gang that gets torn apart by the vampires.
Oh, so right. Okay.
Yeah.
Of course he was. Yeah. I remember him now.
Around the fire, and they tear him limb from limb, literally. And so he's in that one. So that's kind of where we'd kind of met. Just what a party set. It was kind of one of those things. You're like, look, guys, we got to work in like 4 hours. We have to stop drinking. And the motorcycles again. Gary Davis, who was the stunt coordinator for Return of the Living Dead 2, was also the stunt coordinator for Lost Boys. I'm not sure which one of those was first, but one or the other was how I met him. Yeah, and so he brought me in. But Gary is an amazing motorcycle guy. Gary was an amazing stunt coordinator no matter what. He was just a badass. Could do anything. Talk about both fearless and a technician. A fearless technician, so the best of all worlds. And the motorcycles, everything. It was just a testosterone-fueled nightmare dream of fun and frightening. Because he would do stuff. You're like, dude, that's dangerous as F. I don't even want to be around when you do that. And he's like, no, watch. Guys, watch this. Hold my beer. And so it was a much more, party scene than probably any other show I'd ever done. And
amazing.
Up in Santa Clara, California, just when you get on location, it's like, all the rules are off because you're staying in a hotel room, you're getting paid more money than you deserve, and everybody's having a good time because, we're never going to do this again. Let's go. Let's have some fun.
Yeah. Do it 100%. Yeah. That's amazing. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Doubling the Coreys was kind of my a really good score for me because finding, they were very, very popular in the 80s and 90s. So being able to work with them was, like, ooh, get one or the other. They're both about the same
of course.
Weight, so I double whichever one, needed me.
That's amazing. Brilliant stuff. Absolutely brilliant. I would like to touch on, obviously, the Nightmare on Elm Streets. Now, we have spoke earlier about, your parts in Nightmare on Elm Street, but in 3, you doubled for, what's his name now? Ian. That's it, Ira. That's it. Yeah, of course. Now it's the big it's the scene with the giant spiky wheelchair, isn't it?
The wheelchair from hell, as we like to call it.
Yes,
And
that's the one.
There's a 20-minute documentary that covers nothing but that scene. And that's
Oh,
the scene I
wow.
was telling you about, where I watch and then I see Robert's having a beer, and he's not in makeup because in that
I've seen
scene,
that clip. Yeah,
he's-
that's on your channel, isn't it?
Yeah, and he's way down at
Yes.
the end of the hall, and so he's in silhouette. So they didn't need him in makeup because he was so far away. And one of the things that I remembered only after watching that was that they had mounted a version of the chair on a four-wheel, like an ATV, and then they would chase me with it and say, "Do not fall, because you'll get run over."
Oh, jeez.
And the wheelchair itself was weighed about 250 pounds, so it wasn't.
Wow.
It was real. It had to be pretty durable because they were going to pull it with a Volkswagen engine. Which had a spool, and so there was on these wires, and the wires would pull the thing down the hallway. And I'm running, trying not to step on that wire because that wire is very sharp and would go right through your leg if it got it.
Right.
Those things were in the time that I think it was dangerous. No, just don't step on the stupid wire, dumbass. But if you had, bad things happen. And then the wheelchair would run into you, and there's cables. But that's one of those ones where I tell people about the wires. Watch it. If you don't see those wires, you're blind. If you don't see them, you could. No, I'm sorry. Blind people can see those wires. They are so obvious. And when people tell me they didn't see them, I'm like, you were so sucked into the film that you didn't see the wires.
Do you know what? I'm the same.
Stunned.
I'm the same. I watched the scene earlier.
Yes,
I didn't see it.
You
I'm gonna have to rewatch this.
You'll see it now, and you'll be like, how could I miss this?
I'm going to have to rewatch this.
We spent the better part of 2 days doing just that scene. They chased me with the the ATV. They would have this thing pulled down the hallway, and they would pull it and it'd get about 10 steps, and then something would happen, and it would turn and it would slam into the walls, and they got to fix it again. And so we just filmed it over and over and over. And I remember at the time that was one of those ones where it's like, ugh, no one's ever going to remember this movie. And somebody goes by and they've got two 2-gallon jugs of fake blood, and they're like, well, I guess this is going to take us out of Oscar contention. Probably not going to be, and it was the most expensive of all of the nightmares, was Nightmare 3.
Right.
I think that one had a $13 million budget, which at the time was not a huge budget film, but it wasn't a little budget. All the others were $2 and $3 million. So much, much less money. But they had started making money, and they said, let's put some real money into this one. And let's get a director that's really like a serious director. And that was where Chuck came in. And I think because of the extra money, I think Chuck was worried. But I think the reason people really loved that one, it was the last one, at least in my working with him, that was almost entirely practical effects. Yeah. And that really made the difference. The thing with the needles in the arm and the little mouths. Yeah. Ugh,
the little things opening. Yeah.
Yeah, and the kid that's being played like a marionette, Bradley
the puppet.
Gray, I believe it was, being marionetted by his tendons.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you? That's so gross. But although Brooke Thiesby and the cockroach still takes the cake. I have a problem with bugs. I love Brooke to death. She is so gorgeous. She is so much fun. She is everything. But the cockroach scene. Just sorry, Brooke. I can't watch that scene.
It's horrible.
When we were doing a show together, they showed that scene on video, and I was doing this. She looks over at me, and she smacks me. She goes, "She's such a wuss." I'm like, dude, I can't watch you.
Don't like bugs.
The push-up where her face actually sticks to the bottom of the, oh my God, Lord, no.
Yeah, amazing.
Do it. But the practical special effects is what makes it work. CGI, to my way of thinking, it takes away the realism. I mean, it's not real.
You can see it.
It takes away the illusion that, American Werewolf in London. I mean, come on.
Oh,
that transformation scene is forever. It's GOAT. It is greatest of all time. Everyone knows it.
Yeah.
And although you can do something more elaborate in a way, it's CGI. And so it doesn't work.
You can see it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I need to see, David Naughton's head go and stretch and
Yeah.
him screaming at it, as he's watching it. It gives the actor something to work with that you don't get in
100%, yeah.
CGI. So I think when people ask, why do you think, 3 is everybody's favorite? If it's not the first one, why is it the third one? And I said, I think it's because there was a sense of realism and not disgust. There's a difference.
No.
There's a sense of scary versus disgusting. The cockroach thing for me personally is disgusting, but it's also frightening. I'm not a Terrifier fan. No offense to those that are. It's just it's a little over the top for me. No, it's actually a lot over the top for me. Again, those of you who enjoy it, please don't throw things at me. But when the special effects part of it is important because it helps to suspend the disbelief. And if it's too smooth and too cheesy, I mean, it needs a little cheese, not cheesy enough, not too much, not too much, not too little. I want it to look real enough that I can believe it. A good friend of mine was a nurse, and she sent me a video one time of a knee surgery.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my God. So nasty.
Yeah.
Black & Decker drilling into this poor man's knee. Now, he's asleep. But I
still low.
And I'm doing this, and she's like, "You make these movies." I said, "No. He's going to wake
fake.
up. That's a real human being, and he's going to wake up. His knee's going to hurt. His knee's going to hurt so bad. I'm too empathetic. I can't deal with it." And she's like, "Oh my God, you really can't watch this." She goes, "This is a miracle." I said, "Lovely, enjoy. I'm going to do this." And I think. The horror film crosses that line between realism and not realism. If it's too realistic, maybe I'm worried about somebody being hurt. I don't want to watch a snuff film.
No, of course.
If it's too cheesy, then it's like, well, then I'm laughing at it and I can't buy it. I want that middle ground. Just little cheese, just so I know that it's not real, but I still want to be suspended in my disbelief.
Amazing. Yeah, I get you. 100%. 100%. Excellent stuff, William. I want to carry on, but I just don't think I've got enough battery power left in my devices. I would love to carry on.
I totally understand.
Yeah, I would love to carry on.
Thanks so much for having me on. To talk with real fans is always the real joy in doing this, because we can laugh about it and we can, compare notes and what freaked you out, what didn't, what was too cheesy, what wasn't cheesy enough. That's really the fun of doing this, because when you talk with fans, then it's a whole different conversation. When people say, "Oh my gosh, you have so much joy and so much enthusiasm for this," it's like, hey man, I'm a reflection of the people that I talk to about it. If you're enjoying it, so am I. If people are bored,
absolutely.
People who will say those movies are so dumb. It's like, yeah, okay. I don't want to tell you wrong, but it does suck the life out of the room.
Yeah, true.
When somebody's excited about it, so am I. And if the more hyped you get, the more hyped I'm going to get, because now I'm enjoying it all over again too. And that's the beauty of the horror crowd, is that they can watch these movies 100 times and still enjoy them. Yeah, and they know every line, and they have the greatest questions. They challenge me to try to remember. Oh gosh, in fact. When I started doing conventions, I had to go back and watch all my stuff again because I didn't remember a lot of things. And I'd ask questions. Of course. I'm like, I don't know, man. That's a great question. And I don't want to tell them I don't remember because I don't want to hurt their feelings. So I got to go back and watch them and make sure I remember the details, because it's like, oh, yeah, that's a good question.
Oh, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. No, that's right. That's right. William, it's been an absolute blast. I've had so much fun talking to you. It's been so good. Oh, thank you for so much for filling me in on all my favorite horror movies. You're in some of my absolute favorites. It's been so good. Definitely come on, please, for a part 2.
Absolutely, anytime. Let's set it up. Let's not make it a year from now. We'll start planning a year ago, and then we'll try to, we'll just make like we've been planning for a year, and then we'll do it in a few months.
We'll do it in a few months, definitely, definitely. William, my own, thank you so much. It's just been an absolute pleasure. I've had the best time. Thank you for.
All right, and to anybody out there, if like I said, you're ever in the States, come on out and see us. Or like I said, I'm hoping to get out for Love of Horror one of these times. If not, I think if I'm not a guest, I'm just going to come do it because it looks like so much fun. And they're good folks.
Yeah, I will try my best to speak to the guys. Some of the guys I know will try my best to get you there. That'd be amazing. Absolutely.
And go Wrexham.
Absolutely. Yes.
Long
There you
ways
go.
away. My brother's a Liverpool devotee, but I told him, no, man, sorry. And it has nothing to do
Gotta
with
go
Ryan
Wrexham.
Reynolds and all that. The show just got me hooked. I
Yeah.
wanted my team. What can I do?
Yeah. That's right. That's right. Oh, amazing. Oh, well, you have an amazing rest of the day.
You as well.
Yes, I will. Excellent stuff. And it's been wonderful chatting to you. All right.
Thank you.
Cheers. There you go. That was our episode with Bill Perry. What a fun ride. I could have carried on. I literally could have carried on for another 2 hours. And I think Bill could have as well. He loves talking. And I love listening. And I love talking to him. It was superb. It was absolutely great. So, yeah, amazing stuff. Thank you, Bill, for coming on. Absolute treasure to have you on. What those stories. Amazing. Amazing stories. Oh, it's just something else, getting to speak to someone who's in the industry. Yes, love it. So there you go. That was this week's episode of Rabid Weasels. I hope you've enjoyed it. Now you can follow us on Instagram at Rabid Weasels Pod. Well, that's it for this week. Hope you've enjoyed it. And until next time, no matter what happens, don't name it after me.
Spectacular results, sir. Very close to optimal placement. Well, sir, only 20 square blocks destroyed. Less than 4,000 dead, General. I wouldn't worry about the fires, General. The rain is taking care of that right now. Well, there have been complaints about burning skin, but I shouldn't worry. Minor irritation, General. The rain will wash everything away. That's correct, sir. All should be back to normal by morning. Yes, sir, I understand the President will visit Louisville tomorrow. No, we wouldn't want that to happen, sir. No, sir, this hasn't been very pleasant for anyone. Thank you, sir. Good night, sir.
Christ, it ain't dying!
I thought you said if we destroyed the brain, it'd die.
It worked in the movie!
Well, it ain't working now,
I
Frank.
mean, the movie lied.